What is happening, Blades? And welcome back to the Blades Ramble. We, of course, as you all know now, are proudly sponsored by Action Coach Sheffield. If you have a growing business that you want to continue growing, they are the people to speak to. So thanks again to them for supporting this video. And thank you to our Ramblers who continue to support us time after time.
If you look, can look, and you will find it time after time.
That WhatsApp group keeps getting bigger and better. Appreciate now the transfer window's closed. There's not as many posts in there. We're down to about 100 posts a day, probably. So yeah, it's great to bring everybody together through that. So today, what I thought we'd do for our daily ramble number 15 is a squad breakdown. Are we good enough to stay in the Premier League? That's one consideration. The other thing is, where do we need to strengthen? The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to break down each position, player by player. How we're going to break this down? It's going to be on a scale of 1 to 5, and I'm going to be looking at 2 players per position, which is what everybody wants to get to. And the rankings are as follows. If you get a 1, you're poor, really poor. Number 2, you're weak and could do with improvement. Number 3 is a bit of a middle ground. That's you're okay, or you're unproven, or you're inconsistent. Number 4, you're either good or very good. And number 5, you're excellent. Ramblicious, if you will. So those are our scores. Over those 2 players, we will get a score out of 10 as to how strong the position is. So hopefully that makes sense. And if it doesn't, it definitely will as we carry on. So first up, as always, is goalkeepers. Wes, I'm giving a 3. And I know a lot of you would say he's very good. I think he's just okay at this level. I appreciate he's got some plaudits this season already. He's got our player of the month this month. He's been very busy and he's done okay. I'm not saying he hasn't. Some would say he's done good or very good, but I just think there's an upgrade to be had there. So I'm giving Wes a 3 as a solid goalkeeper for us, an okay goalkeeper for us. Unfortunately, I'm giving Adam Davis a 1. And he's done okay for us, Adam Davis. We'll have seen it in documentary. He's got a mistake in him, as have most players, never mind goalkeepers. It's just theirs is amplified. And he's also got us out of a pickle on a couple of occasions with a couple of penalty saves. But would any of us really be confident with Adam Davis if Wes were to go down injured or get sent off again, like he's been susceptible to in the past? I don't think we would. So Wes gets a 3, Adam Davis gets a 1. The goalkeeper position, in terms of squad depth, is 4 out of 10. Right centre-back. And this is where the lines can get a little bit blurred and we can go into it. Anel, I think he's great. I don't think we've ever seen him as good as he was when he first came in and got the illness. I don't think he's quite been the same player. And now the step up in level will really test him. But Anel, great signing for us. Premier League player in my eyes. He gets a 4. Bash, unfortunately, and again, some might think I'm being harsh here. I could be persuaded potentially to give him a 3, but I'm going 2 for Bash because I think he's a weak link, particularly at this level. And I think he's just, well, he is past his peak. And yeah, I think he's okay as a backup, but I wouldn't like to see him in the first team. And this is what I mean in terms of squad depth for us. So right centre-back, it's a 6. Now, this is what I mean when I say it could blur the lines a little bit. Centre-back, John Egan is it. I like John Egan. He's had a very difficult start to the season, not looked his best, carried an injury or 2. I'd back John Egan to come good. He's a good player for us. I'm not saying he doesn't need competition or to even be replaced long-term. Certainly think we could do with somebody behind him to push him, but I'm giving John Egan a 4 because I think he's a very good player for us. Form is temporary, class is permanent. We all know that. But because we haven't got any backup for him or exclusive backup for him, that means centre-back is a 4 because of the squad depth. The other way you could look at it is you can move Anel across, who's a 4, and you might even consider him a 5 in the middle of a 3. And then Egan's his backup, which potentially makes that one position a 9. But then we've only got Bash as right centre-back. So it makes you right centre-back a 2. It's good, this, isn't it? Left centre-back. You all know my feelings on Jack Robinson. I got told today again that I need to lighten up on Robinson a little bit. And this is fair criticism. But just as you've all got your opinion, I can't check mine. And I just don't think he's good enough for the level. That doesn't mean he's done anything wrong. I think he's sort of leaned towards being caught out a couple of times against City. I'm not convinced by him. And I can't tell you why, in all honesty, because he's played well for the majority of the season so far, even though it's very early days. I will concede on Robbo, and rather than label him as poor or weak, I will say he's a 3, and he's okay. I think he's inconsistent. I think he's always got a mistake in him, more so than others. But we'll go with a 3, because I think he's he's doing okay currently, and you've got to give him that. His backup, Austin Trusty, I really like. I think he's got the potential longer term to go on and be a 4, but at the minute he's unproven, not kicked a ball in the league for us, so he's got to be a 3 as well, which makes left centre back 6. Right wing back, and I'm pretty confident this is our strongest position. I love George Baldock. I initially had him down as a 5. I love him that much, but I think we've got to be realistic, and I've settled on a 4 for George Baldock. Never lets us down. Has been susceptible a couple of times already this season, but completely gets the club. I think he should be the captain, in all honesty, as we've talked about previously. George Baldock gets a 4, and Jayden Bogle just behind him. Some prefer Bogle to Baldock. I don't, and I'm giving Jayden Bogle a 3. It's not because he's average. He's certainly not average. It's because he's either very good or he's weak. So in the middle, due to his inconsistency, he gets a 3, which means right wing back is a 7, almost an 8. Left wing back, thank God we're doing this now instead of 2-3 weeks ago. Again, be reminded of the criteria. I'm having 2 for every position. So if you're not in the 2, you're out.
Get out. Get out. I mean it.
So I'm going for Luke Thomas. You've got to give him a 3 because he's largely unproven. He's played half a game for us. I like the look of him. I think he's a very good signing. And I'm also giving Reece Norrington-Davis, who I think has the potential to be our best left wing back. I'm giving him a 3 because it's unknown how good he'll be when he comes back, for want of a better way of putting it. But it's unknown as to how long it'll take him to reach those levels again, or even get close to reaching his potential. So uncertainty around Reece and unproven Luke Thomas, they both get a 3, and it's a solid 6 now for left wing back position. Into the midfield, and I think it's fair to say this is the position we've strengthened the most over the summer, and it was needed. First, we'll talk about Vinny Souza. Really like the look of him. You could argue that he's unproven still, and I get that argument, so I'd get a 3, but I have that much faith in this lad. I'm giving him a 4 already. I think he's good, could be very good, could even push towards excellent. He is an absolute beast. So Vinny gets a 4, and his understudy in midfield, I'm going for Ollie Norwood. If Vinny doesn't play, then Ollie's potentially the most defensive-minded player we've got. I know people don't like to think of him like that, but that's where he sits. And Ollie Norwood is a 3 all day long for me. One of the best players in the team on his day, one of the worst players in the team on an off day, Mr. Inconsistent, but very talented player, Ollie Norwood. That's a 7 for the middle of the park. Right midfield, Gus Hamer is our first 5. He is excellent. He is ramblicious. I am over the moon with this signing. It cannot be understated how pleased I am that we've got a player of this quality in our side. He will prove to be one of the best signings we've made in recent times. I've no doubt about it. I think he's actually a better deal than the Archer deal, because obviously Archer we have to sell if we're relegated. Hamer we could potentially hang on to. I don't mean Archer's not my number 1, because you all know he is. But Hamer's the first 5 that we've got because I think he's that good. And understudy to Hamer is Tom Davis, one putting as a 3, and even kicked a ball for us in any game yet. But I think he's a good signing. I'm pleased with it. I think it's a shrewd bit of business from Eke. He gets a 3 because he's unproven. So that's an 8 for the right centre midfield, largely thanks to Gus. Similar over on the left, people would argue for McAtee to be a 5 because he's a great signing and the potential that he's got. But Eke said similar in his press conference. If he was top of his game and as good as everybody makes out, he'd be playing for City. Still think there's things that McAtee needs to work on. I'll be really interested to see how he goes on in the Premier League. It's not as physical as the Championship, which will suit him, I think. So he should go well, provided we get enough service to him. But I've got McAtee down as a 4. He's certainly got the potential to push to a 5. And behind him, I've got Slimani. It's a shame that he's stunted, really, in terms of how his progression's gone with that little injury that he picked up. Now it looks like the door's closed on him a little bit, and as a squad player, I appreciate he was brought in as a development player, but he looked like one that could really flourish if given the opportunity. He's looked very good whenever we've seen him, I think. So Slimani, for me, still unproven, gets a 3. But that's another solid 7 for left centre midfield. And then up top, the boy, our main man, Cameron Archer. What a boy. This lad, I can't say enough good things about this striker. I've talked about him way too much. And one day I'll clip all the times I've mentioned his name and put it in a short and see how many times we can register it. Ridiculous player. Player that you could argue could have gone higher than Sheffield United. But this boy could get us the 15 goals we need out of him to survive. I've no doubt that he's on his way to doing that. I have so much faith in him. Of course, he's a 5. And I'm going to pair Archer up, obviously. And it's a bit difficult to do strikers because they come as a 2 for me. So an understudy to Cam is Ryan Brewster. And Brewster gets a 3 because he's unproven, largely unproven. He's never really had a chance to get a run at games as a striker, certainly not in a 2-person strike force. And I think he could come good. But there's also the possibility he's a bust. So Brewster's a 3, largely due to being unproven. And I hope to God he can get fit, come back and put himself back in the reckoning. Because if he's anywhere near the potential that we saw in him that while back, we have got some strike force. Cam's partner in attack, the much maligned cult hero, Marmite striker. You either love him or you don't. And that's, nobody's mediocre on Ollie McBurney. But some are now saying future captain. Some are saying I would never want him anywhere near captaincy of my club. I think as time goes on, more and more people warm to him, particularly when he's playing well. That always helps. He's looked very good in the game and a half that we've seen him this season, and that is very early. But I'm giving him a 4 because I think he's shown that he can be very good for us. I think his partnership with Cameron Archer will flourish, and I'm excited to see him together. Ollie McBurney gets a 4. Behind him is Traore. Traore, I'm not sure about, to be honest, at the minute. Ideally, he'd get a loan to sort of go out and play more football because I don't think he's going to nudge his way in. But he's largely unproven and he gets a 3. So that's an 8 and a 7 up front. Surplus to requirements. That means it's Larouci, Lowe, Black, Osborne, Koulibaly. There's also Jebison and Asula who don't get in this 22, but I'd like to see them both out on loan. We know the complications with Jebison in terms of the loan. I'm not entirely sure Jebison will ever be the finished product, but I think Asula's in desperate need of a loan. But we'll see. So I've thrown loads at you there. Loads. It's something I've really enjoyed putting together, if I'm honest. For me, if we look at the team now, how do we finish up scores-wise? Looking at that, the weakest position in terms of squad depth is now goalkeeper and middle centre-back. And I think that's fair. I think that reflects the team. Everywhere else, we're looking okay. You want to improve on your 6s, don't you? But in January, primary aim for me, for the club, is a goalkeeper and a commanding centre-half. As Andy the Blade said, you could also look at a right centre-back and move a Nell into the middle. It'd have to be some right centre-back because he's going to have Bash behind him, who's a 2. So you need at least another 4 to come in, wouldn't you? So let me know what you think. Do you like this way of going through the squad, sort of seeing where we need to improve? What do you think? Do you agree with my scores? Do you disagree? Let me know in the chat. If you like what we're doing, please do subscribe. It means an awful lot to us. We are now well on the way to 5K before Christmas Day. So thanks for your support. It's very much appreciated. But for now, come on, you red and white wizards. Up the blade.
Ramble on!